Good morning, pack leaders. This is here. Friends are right, protecting family, protecting pack. Today, I want to go over the user interface for Ubot. Now, there's a tool called Ustrap, and what you're looking at right now is Ustrap. So I'm going to direct you to tutorials at Ustrap, and it's called lazybots.com, and you'll be able to kind of see the tutorials here that's already been created. There's just a few major ones. How to use a table component, button component, and some of the navigation tools. What you can also do is download the samples and then play with them, and then you can load up yourself to see how things are done. Okay, so you just kind of go there, click on these, and right there, then you could download the examples. But I'm gonna kind of give you the gist of it too. I don't do it the same way they do it nowadays because just keep things simple. The thing is that they use an actual table, and Ubot, all tables are global variables. There aren't any local table variables. Okay, so instead of having too many global variables and you get confused and using tables versus using list and variables here, everything is actually just pulled in as a. You click on this here. Everything is pulled in as a, what is it? Oh, that table. So you see how it's in hash instead of a string is a hash. Kind of like when you set a variable, it's just a really long string, but everything is comma delimited, and then everything else is space. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like once you load it up here on Ubot debugger. So I'm gonna assume that you watched the tutorial and you know how to kind of mess with the numbers and stuff. But what I want to show you is how I've set it. So you see how this is all global, and this is the header. Custom name, API, secret key, key exchange name. So as long as those match up, they should work. So now once I load up the UI, it's gonna populate my API key and everything else. So it's there it is. Let's kind of load the account. I think I might have not saved it. I don't think I did. So let's go ahead and add something right now. I'm just gonna add some phony numbers here, and then I would say it's an API key 1. I'm typing on my side and you can't see it. Secret key 2. So I'm just gonna add some phony numbers here, and then now that you see that it's still in a string form, I'll just say 34. Add some more key numbers. See how this is the global variables being added now. Now add account. So this is your table here, but it's as a string, and it's not being used as a list or as a table. Okay. So I kind of do things a little differently. Now, the biggest things to know is that this is the local variable here, but once it gets pushed out as a ustrap over here, and so I just basically create another variable, right? And then I just kind of, once you set as ustrap account table, you can't, for some reason, use or manipulate that table. It's only used for display. So you see how this variable here is global ustrap account profile tables? That's exactly the same. That's here, global ustrap account profile table. Okay. See, even though I'm pushing it into it, I can see it over here. Right, but you can't manipulate it. So I have to create a separate variable just to track it that doesn't get ever pushed into a ustrap variable. So I always set it in there. So that's why in this add account button here, that's just the button. I put this table into it, and all it does in here is set it. So I pull in all the stuff that's in here, and then all I do is set it right here. So I push that into that. Once it gets pushed into this, it gets displayed, but you can't change anything. Okay, so in order to do this, you have to break everything up. As you bring in the tables in, the existing profile, you enter inputs, so that's the existing table. And once it's brought in, it gets separated by new line, and then it can then add more stuff to it. So I check the list total. I know that it needs to be added to the end of that table, and all I do is, you know, make sure that the header is there. If it is, great. If not, add to it. And then all I do is add to that existing table, and then I set that local variable into the accounts table variables. And after that's been set, then I push it into the U-strap, then it gets displayed, but then you can't change it. Okay, so this is the global table that we mess with. I don't create a table variable. Okay, so then I'll have two global tables, and eventually you kind of don't know which one to mess with, and you get confused. So I only stick to that, and I pass things in and out. So when I create a function later on to, in a sense, manipulate it based on that, and I have too many variables, and it'll just constantly break things down, add to, remove from the list, and go from there. Okay, so hopefully that didn't confuse you. You kind of have some background of playing with this before you get to this. So if you have, I think you should be able to kind of follow what I'm doing here. Now, I don't think I need to go over some of the UI stuff, but that's the biggest thing there. And then also this drop down list, you have to remember that once you push it into these U-strap variables, once you push into a display, you can't change it. So same thing for these select account dynamic list. It also works the same too. So let me click over here. So that's set to this U-strap. Once I push my global account name list without the U-strap name, once I push it into this, you can't use it to manipulate. It's only used for displaying. Okay. All right. So other than that, you can then drag and drop what you need. I think you've already seen it in the training video of the tutorial that they provided. One biggest thing about this is that everything that's done here is controlled inside the user settings. Okay. So a lot of these variables are global variables. And whenever I create a new variable, I'll show you how I create one right now. So let's say I want to add a field to it. Let's say I want to go over here. I want to add a field that says, oops, right there. I want to add a field. Wait, I already did. Okay. I'm going to delete one. There it goes. So I'll go ahead and click the show label so you can see label. Everything's kind of big, so I always make things small. And then I can say this is a enter I don't know, trade quantity or something. Something like that. Then you'll be able to see it there. And placeholder wise, I don't really use it, but you can say, hey, you know, examples enter 100. So it's kind of grayed out, but not actual numbers, so they know to enter percent or not. Okay, so that's what the input number that you're expecting, and then I give it a global variable of global. So I kind of prefix all my global variables with global, so I know that they're global, and then user settings. Actually, do I do that? Let me make sure yeah. I'm just trying to make sure I have a convention here. Global by bit user settings. Okay. I'll put user entered tree constant. Okay. So then that's the variable I created. Once I create it, you then export this by clicking export. And there's an event here that you load kind of like initial variables and stuff, but I've set that here just to make sure that's my user settings load. So it'll load this stuff so that actually, no, that's not it. Oh, it's under UI. Yeah, ustrap loaded. That's what I load. So I load my version numbers and all this other stuff, and then I loads the entire load variables and all the global variables. Okay, so that is what you see in here, ustrap loaded. Okay, so you want to then start export. Oops. Make sure you select the path directory of the same bot. What's going on? Okay. So you select your Ubot file, and then you can then start export. You'll build it, you copy it, and then paste it in your UI over here. What you want to do is copy and paste it, and then you want to delete the old one. So then now you see the trade quantity, and you delete the old one. But that's just an example, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna delete the one. Make sure I delete the right one to return back to my old one. Okay, cool. So once I created variables, then I go to user settings, and I created a way so that it always writes into a text file. So all these INI files would write into my user settings file. And it's already sent. Once you open this, the define in the utility, you'll see that it writes into my user settings file. So that way I can then save into a text file and then pull those out later on when I need it, so I don't have to always re-enter all my my stuff here. Okay, so every time I create a new variable, I'll go over here to the very bottom, and I'll grab one of these. Let me make sure you know where to go. So the load user section and save user section. I'm going to open the load user section first. I'll copy and paste this, and then I'll grab the variable that I just created over here. Oops. Trade quantity. Copy that, and then I'll replace this. Okay. Now the read, make sure that when you replace this, that you remove this hash thingy. Otherwise, it's gonna think it's a variable and it becomes purple. So it's trying to read a variable, but not. What you want is to match this. This is what it's looking for, so that it could find the variable here without the hash. Okay. And so this will help you load it, and then you also need to save it so that you can save the setting. So I'll do the same over here, and then grab my variable again. And that's, oops, don't do that. Get the keys the same without the hash, and then paste that back in with the hash, and then it knows that's the. So once I pull this quantity on the key, it's gonna save it into the global, into trade quantity value. All right, so that's it for the UI. I'll do this every time we create a field. Let's go over the tables real quick. I'm gonna delete what I just created. Here's the account profiles table. So everything is pulled in as is from it, but because it creates a new line, you can see here, right? If it saves it as a new line each time because it's a table. So because it does that, you'll see that the table here, it does not, it'll come down and won't be able to read it, because when it reads it only reads a single line. But when it saves into multiple lines, and it'll look something like this. Okay, and that won't work. Okay, so it needs to be all on the same line. So the way I do that is to pull it in, make a list from the text, and it's deleted my new line, but then bring it in and then break it back down. So this will become a list, and then this list goes in this list, which is pink, and then that list then makes it to a connector of that. So then you can kind of see how it just puts the connector here with these little bars, so that it becomes a straight line. Okay, so that writes it, and then when you read it, you have to unpack it the opposite direction. And I'll show you that when it loads. Or yeah, it loads. Here's my account name. Oh no, that's the account name. There it goes. So here's the table. It reads it, and it reads it. So then it's gonna be a string, right? But now we have to unpack this into a list. So we have to create a list so that it becomes back to normal. And then after, when we unpack it, then we push it into the global use strap, so they can be displayed right away as soon as we load it. Okay, so that's how that works. Hopefully it's helped. Any questions, just let me know, and I will add more videos to this training. So this is just more of what we use most frequently are those two tables. And I don't know if I need to break this down into more videos, since I don't make it too long. Other than that, buttons, buttons are, we create the define here, UI create long button, so with the parentheses, and then we just kind of copy and paste that, and then that becomes the create long button in the UI. So so in the UI, all you have to do is create a define and make sure that the variables match for the call. I mean, UI so I want to do a by run. It's right here. UI create long runs button. So that should match up with UI create long runs button. Okay. Now this, just remember that this has parentheses, and then in the Ubot there are no parentheses. It just has to be right there. Okay. So once they click on that button, then it does something. It just runs that function that calls this stuff. Okay, which we created in the wrong area. So that kind of helps us find it. Okay. Alright, so we did inputs with drop-down lists. Drop-down lists are, you should be able to know how to do that. And other than that, that's pretty self-explanatory as far as that. We covered this, we covered buttons. That's basically it. Now, as far as design goes, I always pull in a panel. Okay, and then so you can kind of see how this is. Pull in a panel, makes it nice and clean, and then I will set the color as primary. Yep, and then just drag it out to that, and then give it a tile, more options or something. And you can kind of pick the logo. I don't really do it till the logo's till later, because then I spend too much time looking at this. You can do that, and then throw some more content in there. Select box, whatever. You put fields. Once you put it in here, what's cool is that it stays with it, so it's nicely boxed up. You don't have to keep moving tons of stuff, and so it's easier to kind of put in there and then move it with it, so that it kind of all stays with you. And especially all this stuff, you're gonna keep moving every single one. Okay, so that's that. I'm gonna delete this. Alright, and I think that's all I have. Version, you can then put these brackets with the global variables and it'll appear. Check boxes. You could probably use a working example and you could clone it. If you want to use another one, just clone it, duplicate it, whatever, and then you can kind of change it out so that it kind of stays consistent with the color values. What it also has is that if you don't like these colors, I don't have a standard, but if you do new development, you can then pick different themes and it'll kind of instantly change the theme for you. It looks like kind of move some stuff too. Cosmo, whatever, I don't like that. I think I went with darkly or something, so go with that. So it's easier on the eyes. Alright, cool. Thanks for watching. Talk to you then.